Alex, you first. I mean, how do you think this changes the conversation about AI and investing in it?
Well, look, if you believed in the AI story before last week, you believe in it even more today. The mere fact of the matter is that building AI has just become far cheaper than it was previously. And if you're, let's say you're a Box of the world or you're a ServiceNow of the world, and your strategy was around implementing AI into your product, this is the best thing that's ever happened to you. Now, look, if your business is entirely built on infrastructure, that's an issue because we don't know what's going to happen on the infrastructure front. But ultimately, I think this places the emphasis where it needs to be, which is on the application. What are we building with the AI itself? We've talked so much about data centers, about cloud services. Have we really talked enough about the products that are being built with this technology? Because if it is as revolutionary as everybody's saying, where's the revolution? And I think that's going to be the question. If this AI trade is going to continue, we're going to need to see applications. We're going to need to see concrete uses of the technology because the infrastructure side of it isn't going to be as exciting as it was now that the models are starting to be commoditized, starting with the DeepSeek R1 model.
Is this, Dan, a game-changing moment for you as an investor? You look at the rundown of stocks that Alger owns in its 35 fund portfolio. Amazon, Meta, NVIDIA, Broadcom, Microsoft, Marvell, Vertiv, and on and on and on and on. You're highly exposed to this space. You less optimistic today or questioning it in any way?
We're always assessing where the risks and rewards are. But overall, we're actually more optimistic. What DeepSeek is showing is that costs can be brought down dramatically. And that dramatically supports, if not enhances, the opportunity in the real world to implement AI-driven solutions, right? If the cost is lower, it really tends to drive much more usage and consumption. And so we're quite excited about still infrastructure providers, key component providers, but also, yes, it's actually quite a bit earlier, I think, than perhaps we would have thought, where we might see really interesting real-world applications. And of course, those real-world applications are enabled by the lower cost.
I mean, when you saw the sell-off yesterday, what was going through your mind?
That this was another overblown sort of announcement and a hyper reaction, probably by quantitative trading models.
But how can we be so sure? I mean, are you skeptical that DeepSeek was able to do what it did for the cost that they suggest they did it for?
So I just convened the entire Alger tech team and e-commerce team, which is pretty significant.
This was like an all hands on deck.
Yeah, for everybody in tech, AI, and senior PMs. And so one thing we'll note is, look, the DeepSeek model uses a technique called distillation. That means it actually leaned on or learned from Llama and learned from some of the other ChatGPT-4, so the big models. So it's riding on the backs, if you will, of the masters. Yeah, we'd still like to see sort of more validation of exactly what the cost would be to implement. And you know, I think the people at DeepSeek have been very open. They do acknowledge that, and you know, but they're still demonstrating that their architecture, and that's the key insight here, that their architecture could be one that rapidly brings down cost.
Seems, Alex, if anything, it has changed the conversation as it relates to open source. It was no surprise yesterday, for example, in the mess that were many of these names, Meta was green for obvious reasons, right? Because of open source.
That's right. Look, we're about to move from a moment where the proprietary models were the leaders. The OpenAI GPT model, maybe the Anthropic Claude model, to a moment where open source leads. And basically, someone who works in the industry put it to me this way. You would have OpenAI working on their model, Claude working on their model, Anthropic working on their model. Now you have the entire open source community coming together and pushing forward, right? The DeepSeek model builds on Llama. Llama's going to build on top of that. You're going to have Meta building on top of what the DeepSeek team is doing and vice versa. And so you're going to have this collective effort in the entire open source community to take these innovations and move it forward. And what that's going to do, like I said, is going to commoditize the models. And so they're all going to keep working together. Proprietary is not going to be able to make as much money as they would otherwise because the open source is doing a good enough job. And that will definitely shuffle the deck of cards that we've been playing with up until now in AI.
I mean, if you have any skepticism about DeepSeek, where does it lie? And do you feel like part of the story is not being told correctly? There's been some guests on the network today who have called you know what on a lot of this story?
So, Scott, I think this is the most important part here. You can't really have skepticism on the results. They're being the model weights are being downloaded and deployed by people in Silicon Valley today. It's live in Perplexity right now, slightly adjusted from what it is. So the fact that you can run this model as cheaply as you can is the core innovation here. And that's going to really change what it takes to build this technology. Now, the questions you might have is, did it really take them as little money as they're saying to build and develop this model, just a couple $1 million? Probably not. But ultimately, you can't argue with the output. And the output is actually what changes the game here, not the process.